It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, showtime. What's happening, everybody? The Geno Jones Show. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, I believe this Friday is probably going to be a special, either an early start time or it'll be the best of. No live show on this Friday, which is going to be December 13th, right? Lucky Friday the 13th. The Geno Jones Show brought to you by City Vibes Bar and Lounge, 9730 Dorchester Road here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro area, the #1 adult spot. You can follow them on Instagram and Facebook. Shout out to Kenya and Corey Williams, the owners of City Vibes Bar and Lounge. A great food is fabulous. They got a great menu. Their brunch on Sunday is fire, and they have DJs, and it's just the vibes. So that's why it's called City Vibes, because you get the good. They should call it good vibes, good city vibes, great city vibes, because that's what you get. Also, the Geno Jones Show brought to you by the Crate Group presents the Low Country Meets the Oscars this Sunday, an awards gala to recognize the unsung heroes right here in our area, here in the Charleston, South Carolina, or as we call it here in the Carolinas, the Low Country is going to be the ultimate event to recognize those unsung heroes that have been doing great work in the community for years, for decades, and the media doesn't pay attention to them, never, shines a spotlight on what they do. So we are going to do that and recognize them and give them their flowers while they are alive, so they can recognize and smell the roses, as they say, as I step off camera just to do this real quick. So get your tickets and your tables now. This Sunday, you don't want to miss it. So 843-900-7904, 843-794, 843-900-7904. That's 843 area code 900-7904. So let's do this. Okay, let's do this, because really the whole monologue today's show is health related. Should have did this show Wednesday, called it like Get Well Wednesday. Shout out to Jamie Foxx. He's got a new Netflix special. What has happened? What has happened was, because there's a lot of talk about what happened, his health. It was a big mystery, a lot of speculation, and then it was rumors that Diddy poisoned Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx, Diddy called him folks, the feds on Diddy. Well, anyway. A spoiler alert, no, Diddy didn't poison him, and Jamie didn't call the feds. And Jamie talks about that, he laughs about it in his Netflix special that's called What Has Happened Was. So he talked about, and it's interesting, because I haven't seen the full thing yet, but I've seen clips from the special, and, he gets very emotional at times, and he's still funny. So he talked about the fact that he was still able to joke and do impersonations of Cat Williams and Dave Chappelle and people like that. Basically, it let him know, it allowed him to know, and it let him know that he was still alive and he was going to make it. These are, in Jamie's own words, I'm paraphrasing here, the near-death health crisis, the emergency surgery, that happened in April. So he confessed, I don't want to say confesses, but he acknowledges to the audience he recorded this special live in Atlanta, where he had the health crisis, the near-death health crisis, which turned out to be a stroke. He talked about how his sister said, who saved his life, and he gets very emotional talking about his sister. His younger sister named Deidre. And he talked about how this doctor said it was this real cool young doctor, apparently that had a Lakers jersey on and all that, and told his sister Deidre that your brother is having a brain bleed, and we need to have an emergency surgery to save his life. He talked about that he doesn't remember when this incident, he said, it started off with a really, really a bad headache, like a real bad headache, and he asked his boy for like an aspirin, and he said before he could take the aspirin, he just blacked out. And he said for the next 20 days he couldn't remember anything, but he talked about our sister kind of, so he went to one doctor, and Jamie can't remember that, and the doctor just gave him a cortisone shot and sent him off. But his sister Deidre said she knew something was wrong. So Jamie talked about how Deidre drove around and just spotted in Atlanta, because she wasn't really familiar with about like all the hospitals and which hospital had the best care. But she drove around, and thank God she drove around to Piedmont Hospital, or she drove around in the area and she looked up and she saw Piedmont Hospital, and she took him to Piedmont, and they saved his life there in Atlanta where he did the special. So, he gets really emotional talking about his sister. He talked about, had another young daughter, I think she was 14, to how she would sneak into his room when he was really bad off, and she would play a guitar, and how the music apparently helped him come back from the abyss, because he nearly died. So it's just, I can't wait to see the whole thing. So shout out to Jamie Foxx, and thank God that his sister Deidre didn't follow the advice of the first doctor, because Jamie Foxx, AKA Eric Bishop, would be dead. And he joked about how he had a conversation with God, who he referred to as, and these are Jamie's words, not mine, I'm just giving it to you straight. Jamie Foxx referred to his conversation with God as God was my nigga, and how God referred to Jamie as my nigga. These are Jamie Foxx's words, only in a way that Jamie could make a joke like that and people find it funny, the humor in it. And he talked about, wait a minute, he said, God, all these people that's doing horrible things, he said, you must have made a mistake. Excuse me. You must have made a mistake. You sure you got the right name? He said, Jay, it's me. Jay, it's me, Jamie. Jay, like for G, or God, he's like, yo, G, it's me, Jay. You sure you got the wrong person? Me, Eric Bishop. That's his real name, his birth name. And he said, God basically said, because he said, why did you let this happen to me with all these evil people and people doing horrible things and bad things, killing people? And Jamie said God told him that those people belong to someone else. You belong to me. So I thought that was a very profound. So shout out to Jamie Foxx. I cannot wait to sit down and watch this entire special. Let's rest in peace to one of the great American, she was an iconic one, a legend, a national treasure, an icon as a poet, an author, and a writer, Nikki Giovanni, who did a lot of, I don't even want to say spoken word, but the Mighty Clouds of Joy did a gospel album way back in the 60s, and they had Nikki Giovanni just like reciting poetry. So now you would call it spoken word, but before we were snapping the fingers and loved the movie Love Jones, Nikki Giovanni was an incredibly just profound poet and an author and voice in the community and for the culture, and just for human culture, not just black culture, black American culture. She was a force of nature. She was well known for her writings, everything from race to gender to sex to love. She had a biological son, Nikki Giovanni. She passed away on Monday. Yesterday, she was 81. Rest in power, rest in peace, rest in paradise to one Nikki Giovanni. Hey, everybody watching me live right now, please feel free. Join the conversation. As a matter of fact, you can get the conversation started in my chat room right now. Right there, just you'll see it. Everybody watching me live, it says live chat. Just jump in there and just type in whatever you want to type in. You got a question, you got a comment. Whatever you want to get the conversation going, feel free to do that. Now, before I wrap up my monologue today, Want to talk? There's been a lot of talk about this young man. His name Luigi Mangione, 26-year-old young man, and obviously an Italian surname, an American kid. Went to an Ivy League school. Apparently, parents are very wealthy. He was charged with the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. Now, there's been a lot of conversation about how on social media so many people of all different political persuasions, from the MAGA cult to progressive people on the, and I hate these labels, the far left, just those who believe in freedom and democracy, to those who voted for dictatorship, that when it comes to the healthcare industry and all these health insurance companies, there is a common loathing and hatred of the healthcare industry based on how so many health insurance companies have been treating their customers, people like you and me, excuse me, for years, for decades. So there's been a lot of speculation that, hey, listen, you had a man who died. Yes, he was the CEO of like the largest healthcare company here in America, United Healthcare, but he was human and he probably had a family, and that we shouldn't celebrate a man dying. And the general consensus on social media is that, I don't want to say the majority, but a significant number of people are not celebrating that a man was murdered. But what they are expressing is that how the healthcare industry has caused the death of so many people because they've denied coverage. People who had coverage, they canceled their policies, and people couldn't get health insurance again for their children, for themselves, or for their parents or grandparents. So there's a lot of hatred, disgust, disdain for the American healthcare system. That is one of the most profitable industries in the world, and that our healthcare is not rated anywhere near as high as countries that provide what they call single-payer coverage or healthcare for all, just right up the northern border. In Canada, in many countries, in Europe, Germany, France, to mention a few. So there's a lot of disdain and hatred for the healthcare industry. And many people on social media are just using the CEO that got murdered, this former CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, as just like he's just a symbol. It's like, man, because if I remember correctly, not too long, maybe a couple weeks before this CEO of United Healthcare was murdered, United Healthcare talked about how if you had coverage that covered surgery in a hospital, they were only going to basically grant you so much, they would only pay for so much anesthesia that you needed. So I'm just a random number because I don't have the data in front of me. But the example was, let's say if you had a surgery that required, they turned out maybe the surgery went a little longer. There were complications. So you had to be under anesthesia for 8 hours. But United Healthcare said, well, this surgery, as far as we're concerned, should only taken 3 hours or 4 hours. So we're only going to pay for 3 or 4 hours, and you got to pay for the other 4 hours because we're not going to pay for the anesthesia that you needed to save your life. And people were like, what? Really? The healthcare industry that is probably making close to trillions of dollars. United Healthcare probably making profits in the hundreds, probably in the billions of dollars. CEO made $20 million a year. And you're going to nickel and dime people who are on the operating table, who are in surgery to save their life? You're going to nickel and dime them about how much anesthesia is needed for them? So there's no love for the healthcare industry. So there hadn't been a lot of sympathy for the CEO of United Healthcare. Now let me just say this. Shout out to my executive producer who's got the conversation going on in my chat room. You can feel free to watch too, Miss Mary Dixon. So I want to give you a quick history on the American healthcare system that you might not have known before I wrap up today's show. So because there's been so much talk about, how America, is like this, got the largest economy, the most powerful nation and all that, the richest nation in the world. How is it that this country can't provide health care for all of its people, all of its citizens? So let me give you a quick history lesson. So there was a guy named Frederick Hoffman who was an immigrant from Germany back in 1887. Now, he came to America. He became the vice president of Prudential Insurance Company. So I didn't realize that Prudential, I know they did life insurance. So I guess way back in the day, Prudential gave, healthcare insurance. So this guy, Frederick Hoffman, in 1896, he published a book, wrote and published a book called Race Traits and Tendencies. Race Traits and Tendencies of the American Negro. You can Google this. Frederick Hoffman, don't take my word for it. You can Google it yourself. Frederick Hoffman, the book that he published, 1896. Race Traits and Tendencies of the American Negro. And in this book, Mr. Hoffman basically said that black people were genetically inferior and that America and the American government and the white people that controlled the American government should basically deny black Americans health care, because the theory was if you deny black people health insurance and then in turn deny black people in America health care in the late 1800s to early 1900s, if we deny these black people health insurance, in a couple generations, they would all die out. And that would solve the race problem in America. Now, I know as crazy as that sounds, that is the truth. Don't take my word for it. Google Frederick Hoffman, Google the book, Race Traits and Tendencies of the American Negro. And this man spoke in front of Congress. As a matter of fact, Prudential Insurance sent him all around the country to talk to people in the healthcare industry. Like I said, he influenced presidents from FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, because eventually we got something called Medicare, but that didn't come until like 1965. But what I found out is one of the main reasons that you never had health care for all was because of the influence of Frederick Hoffman and his book, Race, Traits, and Tendencies, that said that black Americans were genetically inferior. And so why spend all this money on health care to keep them alive and to solve the race problem, to get rid of all the Negroes after they were freed after the Civil War? Just deny them health insurance. Don't let them be able to go to a doctor. And if you think about it, during Jim Crow and segregation, the early part and the mid part of the 1900s, there were hospitals that would not treat, serve, or take care of black people. They were like whites-only hospitals. All that was influenced by this guy, Frederick Hoffman, and his book, Race, Traits, and Tendencies of the American Negro. And it influenced presidents from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR they call him, Franklin Roosevelt, to Harry Truman, why it was so hard for them to get basically some type of health care insurance for all, because they were influenced, and Frederick Hoffman, had influenced other politicians, people in the Congress, senators, and representatives in the House, that no, it's going to cost, that these insurance companies couldn't afford to give black people in health insurance, because they were genetically inferior. And we got this race problem. So just let them die out, and then all the Negroes will be gone. It'll just be white folks in America. There are people who exist today that have that same mentality. That's going to be in the White House January 20th. Because, when they get rid of, they want to get rid of Medicare, want to get rid of Medicaid, they want to get rid of Social Security, and they want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. Now, here's the real tricky part. This is where it's going to get real tricky as I check my chat room here. There are more white Americans and a significant number of MAGA cult members who depend on Medicare, who depend on Medicaid. As a matter of fact, just general assistance, SNAP, what we used to call welfare. The largest group of Americans on public assistance for any type of health insurance are white Americans, not black. I think I saw a number, 48% of those that depend on some form of, for Medicare, you got Medicare and Medicaid, 48% of those that depend on health insurance from the government, I don't know if that includes Obamacare, are white. So there are going to be millions of poor and working class white people, a lot of them that voted for Orange Hitler, that's going to start losing their health insurance. And when people's parents, when people's mothers and fathers and grandparents start dying, and these same white MAGA cult members, and when they lose their spouses or their children, it's going to be a whole different day. And all of a sudden, that cult worshiping is going to change. Because when you watch your parents or your child or your spouse die because they had insurance, that insurance that Negro gave you through Obamacare, and when that's taken away and these same people can't go out on the open market because companies like United Healthcare won't give them insurance because they are considered too high of a risk because they have pre-existing conditions, and people literally start dying for real, it's going to be, if you think what happened to this CEO was something, you haven't seen anything yet. I'm telling you, there are a lot of social services, SNAP benefits. See, it's not real for people yet. People voted against their own interests because they were voting for this tribalistic, bigoted ideology of whiteness and white nationalism. Some they try to call white supremacy. The same ideology that caused a dude who was not a doctor, who just worked at an insurance company, who thought that somehow he knew that black people were genetically inferior, so it didn't make sense for the government to give black people health insurance because, heck, in a couple of generations, don't give them insurance, they'll die off. Yeah, well, see, the way Medicare and Medicaid, if they get rid of it, that means everybody that's on Medicaid, everybody that's on Medicare, everybody that gets Medicaid, all those that get Obamacare, you're going to be ass out. They're not going to be able to say, we'll only get rid of Medicare from the Negroes, or we'll only get rid of Obamacare for the Negroes, or the Afro-Latin. No, it ain't going to work that way. Because these billionaires don't give a damn. They don't give a shit about poor and working class white people. To all the MAGA cult members watching the show, so you can continue to be brainwashed by Fox News and all these other folks and Newsmax and Joe Rogan or whoever. But what you have to understand that these billionaires don't give a shit about you. As a matter of fact, they think less, those wealthy white billionaires think less of poor and working class white people than they do black people. Because they understand that this whole system has always been rigged against black people But they look at white people and say, well, you must be inferior. How is it that you didn't, this system was rigged for you to get over and become wealthy? Which is really bullshit, because the whole concept of race was created in the late 1600s, like the 1680s in Europe, and it was imported. Just like talking about racism immigrated from Europe to America. And the idea is that let's create this system using this whole thing about skin pigmentation is really rooted in class. Because these billionaires now, who were the elites in the late 1700s and the 1800s, they didn't give a damn about poor and working class people who were not wealthy. The Constitution, when it was originally written here in America, the only people that could vote, you can Google this, in the Constitution, the words said the only people who had the power who could vote legally was wealthy, white, male landowners. So if you didn't have enough wealth to own land, and if you weren't a male and white, you couldn't vote. That meant poor white people, the peasant class as they would call them, or today they would call them poor white trash. You had no political power, and they really had no intentions of you having any political power, just like they had no intentions for black people or Native American people or the Chinese that immigrated who couldn't marry and bring wives over. And remember, when the Italians first came to America, the Italian immigrants, they were discriminated against. They weren't considered white. The same with the Irish immigrants. They weren't considered white. There were laws that were written by politicians in Washington, D.C., who were part of the Congress, senators, U.S. House of Representatives. Laws on the books, you can Google it. Anti-immigration laws against the Chinese, against the Italians, against the Irish. Yes, just like the immigration laws and wanting to deport all these illegal aliens. But they never talk about the people who are technically illegal, who fly from Europe, come to America, and basically whatever type of visa, whatever legal status, temporary status they have, they overstay that. They never go and follow through to become a citizen, but they can hide in their whiteness. They're not talking about deporting them. Why do you think all the talk is about people coming across the southern border and Venezuela and Haiti and all that? But you don't hear about people coming from Ukraine or Lithuania or Poland or Ireland, I should say. No, you don't hear about those people who've come here, grandmothers and grandfathers and people who've been here for years, for decades, from Europe. But it's going to be a new day after January 20th, because when I should just, keep it 1,000 on this show, when the shit hits the fan in terms of people really, and the only saving grace will be the Democrats in the House of Representatives, even though they are in the minority. But there are going to be some Republicans in the House of Representatives that live in districts that President Biden either won, in 2020, or maybe he actually won. Vice President Kamala Harris won in 2024. And even some that, districts that Orange Hitler won, but when these people realize that, oh, wait a minute, hold on, how many people that live in my district that's about to lose their health insurance? They're going to lose their Medicare. They're going to lose their Medicaid, especially Medicaid, disability. Those people who need a breathing assistance, like my mother. Those who didn't realize they were sick until they got Obamacare, even if they didn't call it, if the state you lived in didn't call it Obamacare. Like in Kentucky, they called it Kentucky Care, because people say, oh, I'll never get Obamacare, but I love my Kentucky Care. Dumbass didn't realize that Governor Brashear, your governor of Kentucky, just said, let me call it something else because these people are too bigoted and racist and stupid. I'm sorry that they would refuse getting life-saving health insurance because a black man's name was attached to it. That's stupidity. I'm sorry. Oh, you shouldn't call people stupid. Listen, if I had to get some health insurance to save my life, even if Orange Hitler's name was on it, which is what I know he wants to do, he wants to get rid of Obamacare and then bring it back in some form and call it, Trump Care. But first, he wants to get rid of all these social programs that save people's lives and make sure that elderly people don't live in poverty. So Elon Musk and his billionaire friends can get a larger tax break. Oh, but I guarantee you the chickens are going to come home to roost. And it's going to be very interesting. Because when people realize this whole bogus con job of whiteness and white nationalism and this remixed racist version of Christianity, white Christian nationalism and this fake white supremacy, there's nothing supreme in whiteness because whiteness is a bullshit con artist construct that was made up by a small handful of people that wanted to pick people who didn't have a lot of pigmentation. They figured, we can really separate these people by the color of their skin. Let's race. Let's make the people who kind of don't have melanin like us, let's make them think that they are better than these dark people and make these people, let's call it whiteness, and let's make these white people that look like us, who we don't give a shit about, let's make them think that these darker people are the reason that they'll never, become wealthy and, join the elite status, because we don't like them either. We think we are better than them. Until, like I said, 1680s, Europeans didn't call themselves white. But Europeans hated each other. These were white people. Think of all the wars in Europe. The 1600s, the 1700s. All those countries, they hated each other. Germany and France, Russia, and all the little smaller satellite countries that was a part of the old Soviet Union. Like Great Britain and Ireland and Scotland, they were all technically white. The Irish, it was a religion. The Protestants, they were both Irish. But the Protestants hated the Catholics and the Irish Catholics hated the Protestants on the same damn island. Man, y'all better wake up. Because this whole construct of race, and these people, they have used that fear and bigotry and misogyny and sexism to gain power so they can get more power and more money, and they don't give a damn, they don't give a shit about you poor working class white people with your MAGA hats on. They don't. He doesn't. He called people in the military losers and suckers because you can't become rich in the military. All right, about to be in the find out phase, so just wake up. Send this to your MAGA cult member, your MAGA hat wearing, a MAGA flag flying family member. Now they'll probably get mad and cuss and everything, but that's okay. But guess what? It'll hit them. What I'm saying right now, it'll find its way in their subconscious. And something will happen, especially if they're able to go, if the MAGA cult, these billionaires are able to go through and to cut people's, in large numbers, to cut people off Medicare and Medicaid and to get rid of Obamacare. It means hundreds of millions of people will lose health insurance just like that. And hundreds of millions of them will either not be able to get back on anyone's insurance because the insurance companies will deny them because they are considered high risk, or the insurance policies that the insurance companies like United Healthcare will give you, you won't be able to afford them. And as they say, the rubber's gonna meet the road, the shit's gonna hit the fan, then it's gonna get real interesting. And I hope and pray that doesn't happen. I really hope that people like Hakeem Jeffries, who is the leader, minority leader as they call it, no pun intended, the Democrats don't have control of the House, but they're right there. So, and I'm sure there are going to be many people who are going to be fighting in court to protect people's, Medicare, Medicaid, and Obamacare. Not to mention SNAP benefits, but it's going to get real. So today is December 10th of 2024. Bookmark this show. Save it. Copy and paste this monologue. Just remember this conversation and remember how we got in this system in America to where everybody's not insured because there was somebody that convinced the healthcare industry and government that, well, we got all these black people. We can't afford to have health insurance. The government can't afford to give everybody health insurance because we really want to get rid of these Negroes. Frederick Hoffman, Google Frederick Hoffman, and Google the book, Race, Traits, and Tendencies of the American Negro. Yes, sir. Shout out to the Big Picture Podcast. Hey, Sierra, thank you. Peace, thank you, Sierra. Thank you. Shout out to my man, the Big Picture Podcast. I appreciate you. Yes. Big Picture Podcast said, yeah, it's going to get tricky for sure. Yeah, it is. Yes. All right, listen, thank you, everybody, for watching. God bless each and every one of you, and especially you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Show. I got one more comment I want to read. Sparkling Truth over there. Thank you, Sierra. I appreciate it. Please share this episode. Please screen grab this episode. Copy and paste the link. And tell everybody about the show. Tell them to subscribe to the show because we're going to keep it 1,000. The real truth, because a lot of the media is going to lie to you because they are afraid of Orange Hitler, and they're in on it too. Because they consider, many in the corporate media considered Orange Hitler good for business. Because he's unpredictable. You know, he's going to do something outrageous. And they think, but it's a different day. But I'm here for you. I will be here for you. I will be here to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I will also give you, the power. I will give you the knowledge. I will empower you, and I will tell you simply to where you can fact check and you can learn for yourself what I share with you, like I did tonight, about the history of the American healthcare system and about this guy, Frederick Hoffman, who came here from Germany in 1887 and wrote this book in 1896 about how black people in America were genetically inferior. So the government shouldn't give them health care. As a matter of fact, if we don't give them health care, they'll die off in a couple of generations. And oh, no more Negroes. Hey, the race problem is over. You can Google it for yourself. But tell everybody to check out the show because this is how we get down every day. This is the energy. And just the celebrity guests that I have on the show and the humor and all that other stuff and the jokes, that's the candy. That's the eye candy to get you, this candy's good. Oh, wait a minute. Wow. There's some medicine in this candy. Some knowledge and wisdom. All right, everybody. The Geno Jones Show brought to you by City Vibes Bar and Lounge here in the Charleston, South Carolina Metro, 9730 Dorchester Road. The ultimate adult night spot. It's not the spot for the kids. We love the kids, but you're not trying to party with the kids. This is not the twerking spot. So the kids want to twerk, they got another venue, but this is for the truly grown-ass men and grown-ass women. The menu is fabulous. They have a great brunch on Sunday, DJs throughout the weekend. So check out City Vibes if you're coming to this great city for the holiday, New Year's Eve. City Vibes is the place for you to go. Shout out to Corey and Kenya Williams. You can follow City Vibes on Instagram and Facebook. And the Crate Group, this amazing nonprofit organization led by my dear friend Kendrick, as I call him, Brother Al Bannister. The Crate Group been doing great work in the community for 3 decades. They're having a big black tie gala. It's called The Low Country Meets the Oscars, where we celebrate these unsung heroes. This Sunday, black tie gala, you don't want to miss it. Get your tickets. They're going fast. Get your tickets, and a few tables is left. You don't want to be left out. You don't want to hear about it. You want to be a part of it. So get your tickets now. Call 843-900-7904. 843-900-7904. I'll see you Sunday because I will be there. Last year they had a pre-red carpet gala. I was the host of that and one of the co-hosts for the event. So I'll be back again this year, so you do not want to miss it. Thank you to those huge supporters of the Geno Jones Show, the Crate Group, and City Vibes Bar and Lounge. We have to support each other on every level. We have to support all our black-owned businesses in every industry from black farmers and buying land to grocery stores, transportation companies, manufacturing companies, hospitals, health clinics, black-owned media, black-owned investment companies, black-owned real estate. I could go on and on. We got to support, start, and invest into each other. All right? Last year, $1.3 trillion in America. Black people spent $1.3 trillion. I hear the spending power is somewhere around $3 trillion. So we got well over $1 trillion every year in spending power. So we got to be smart and strategic where we spend our money, who we spend our money with, and how we spend, save, and invest our money in each other. Because we're all we got. We're all we need. For us, by us. If you didn't learn anything else on November 5th, it's like, yo, we never did like y'all anyway. So America said, here's our ass. You can kiss it, like it or not. So, okay, we got you. For us, by us. Our ancestors did this before with a lot greater risk and odds against them. So we're good. We're good. We got this. We're all we got. We're all we need. Go on and do you. Because a lot of y'all going to get done too. Then you're going to be looking at us like, hey, hold on. Hold on. All right. Shout out to Mr. Markel Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist for the Geno Jones Show, CEO of Designer Cuts here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro. Check him out on Instagram, KELBECUTTINUP. Allie Jones, the official wardrobe consultant and fashion designer, future superstar. Check Allie Jones and her Lexi Jones collection out on Instagram, LX.NCL_. That little line, that little dash, right? LX.NCL_. Shout out to Bruce Gage, also a wardrobe consultant and stylist. The Mario Uomo collection. Yes, the Mario Uomo collection and the Flyball collection. Check Bruce Gage out on Instagram. Mario Uomo. So Mario's Mario, real simple, Mario now. Now Uomo sounds like it's spelled with maybe a W, like a what? W-O? No. It's an Italian surname, so it's U-O-M-O. U like umbrella, O like Oprah, M like Mary, O like opera, Mario Uomo. The next live edition of the Geno Jones Show is going to be Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Once again, thank you to Sierra. Thank you, Sierra Watts. Shout out to the Big Picture Podcast, of course, my number one fan, my mother, Mary Dixon, and everybody else for watching me live. All those who are watching the recorded version of this show, whenever you are watching it, whenever, thank you for watching And I'll see you live Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.